First of all, thank you for everyone coming today, and Alan, thanks for taking the time to just all the support. And everyone reached out. There's a lot of people that reached out during the time, and I want to thank everyone who did that, because those thoughts and those words were very important during this process. It has been a very difficult few months since May 25th, and the Auburn family has shown incredible support to the Bramletts and to everyone that knew Rod and Paula, and for that, I'm entirely grateful for that. When it came time to take a step back and was really clear who that person was going kind of to be, because we really took a really thoughtful approach to the process. Andy's ability to connect with people is incredible. He has a high level of integrity, empathy, and trust, and those qualities are hard to find in one human, and he holds all three. The various quotes from all of our coaches and fellow staff have shown the impact that those qualities have imparted to those when he had those moments. And Andy's approach to each broadcast and Auburn event will come with great passion. It will come with great preparation. And with that, you'll see incredible execution. Andy is well respected by Auburn athletics, the university, the entire Auburn family. He'll be at many different events, and I look forward to seeing him. So it is my pleasure to really look at my guy that I've had a lot of conversation with, Andy Burcham, and introduce him as our next voice of the Tigers.
Good afternoon, War Eagle. I was talking with my mother last evening about this position, and my mother is as supporting and as kind a person as you can find, and one of her first comments was, well, the pressure's on you now. And it is. It is with great humbleness and happiness that I take this job as the voice of the Auburn Tigers. It is the worst possible way to do it, though. Rod Bramblett and Paula Bramblett were special friends of Jan and mine, and they are missed to this very day, and that will never change. The support of the Auburn family following their passing in May has been remarkable and humbling, and I thank you for that. I have some folks that I want to introduce before we get going. My wife Jan is a two-time Auburn graduate and has been a rock in my corner for 16 years, 15 of which we've been married. Thank you. I also want to introduce Shelby Bramblett, who is here and is now part of our family in an unofficial way. We love you very much, Shelby, and thank you for being here. Our staff with the Auburn Sports Network, thank you for your support. I look forward to working with you. Guys with War Eagle Productions, I've enjoyed my time with you, and I thank you for that. The sports information staff, and a lot of friends. It's odd to be on this side of the podium here today. It's my first time in this role. I've been in the Auburn community for 31 years. I moved to Auburn in September of 1988 at halftime of the Auburn-Kansas football game. And that game was over at halftime that day, and we were fighting traffic to get through. I was fortunate enough to go to work at Tiger Communications and take over the reins for Auburn women's basketball, which I served until this past season. Been with the Auburn football crew since 1990, and Auburn baseball for the last 25 years, of course, with Rod. Auburn means a great deal to me, and I understand that this job is not just the voice of Auburn football and men's basketball and baseball. It's a voice for Auburn. It's something that I've never taken for granted in 31 years, and certainly it's something that I will not take for granted in the future. I am ecstatic about this. I get more excited about this position with every passing day. Two more people I need to introduce. I'm sorry. My brother Matt and friend Randy drove from Nashville today to be here and surprise me, and I thank you for that. So I'm ready for this job. I'm ready to take the reins from Rod and Jim and Paul Ellen and Gary Sanders and Buddy Rutledge and the folks in front and behind those. I'm very, very excited about this. I'm excited to work with this broadcast team. One of the comforting parts of this is the fact that I'll get to work with Paul Ellen and Brad Law and Patrick Tisdale and Gene Dulaney and Ronnie Brown and Stan White and Jason Campbell. I'll get to work with Sonny Smith this coming basketball season. I'll get to work with Brad Law on Tiger Talks and baseball. And that's very comforting for me to know that I'll be with these folks in a bit of a different role this year. I thank Auburn for this opportunity. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Chris, for this opportunity. I will not let you down moving forward. And with that, I'll take some questions.
Andy, congratulations.
Thank you.
Just, what was, I guess, the interview process like, and then when you were offered this job, what were you thinking at that moment?
I was overwhelmed at the time that the job was offered. It's something that I've worked for. I mentioned in the video, it's something I've worked for since I was 6 years old, and that's really true. And to be at this point of my career and get this opportunity, I'm humbled by it. I met with Chris on a couple of occasions and met with a couple of the staff, the athletic staff at Auburn as well. And then Chris gave me the news last Wednesday. And I was probably had to pick my chin off the floor for a minute to get the opportunity to do this.
And you talk about doing baseball as well as basketball and football. There was not many guys probably doing that, are they?
Yeah, it's probably a little more unusual now. I think at one time it was the norm. A lot of the same play-by-play men across the conference were doing all three sports, and there are still several that are doing that. I know that was important for Rod almost 17 years ago when he took the reign. And it's important to me as well. When you get to cover a sport and to work with a sport and to travel with a sport, you don't want to give it up. And that was the case for me when it came to baseball for 25 years. It is tough for me to give up women's basketball. That has been a part of my job for 31 years. And I appreciate the work that Joe Champy and Nell Fortner and now Terry Williams-Flournoy has done and opened their arms to me as far as that staff is concerned. But it's time for me to move on, and I can't wait to work with Coach Pearl and his staff and that team for the 2019-20 season. So I look forward to working all three. The fact that Brad is going to be on baseball from day one will certainly help in that, and I'll be there as much as I can, and then we'll be there for another trip to Omaha, Nebraska. Anybody else?
Andy, when you came here,
Yes.
31 years ago, what were your goals then? I don't imagine you thought you were necessarily coming here to stay for 31 years.
I'll be honest with you, Philip. I came here with a different wife, and we thought we'd be here for 2 years and move on. And 2 years turned into 31 years for me. I've lived longer in Auburn and Auburn Opelika than I've lived in anywhere else in my life, including growing up in Nashville, Illinois, and I was there for about 11 years before I went off to college. So this is now my new home, and you learn to appreciate it. I'd never been to a venue as large as Jordan-Hare Stadium until I came to my first game, which was Auburn, Tennessee in 1988. I'd never been in a stadium that had 87,000 crazy football fans. And I quickly learned the passion, the grandeur of a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday evening in the Southeastern Conference, and that's something I certainly and will not take for granted.
Andy, will you continue to say touchdown Auburn?
That's a good question. I've had that a lot today, Brandon. When Rod took the helm for Jim, I don't think he intended that would be part of his call. And of course, Rod didn't get to call an Auburn touchdown for 3 games. His first year, it was into that Vanderbilt game before he got the opportunity. I can't tell you exactly if I will or not. I'm not putting it, really ruling it out of the question at this point. But if I do it, it's going to be something that is organic, so to speak. I'm not going to do it just because Jim and Rod did it. It'll be something that I feel is needed at that point. So I don't know the answer to that right now, Brandon, but I'm certainly not ruling that out at this point. I graduated from high school, underneath my senior picture in the yearbook, it says, to be the voice of the St. Louis Cardinals. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a play-by-play man. That changed when I went to college, and I started to understand the allure of being a voice of not just one sport, but many. So that changed when I went to Indiana State and then through my career here. But I grew up near St. Louis, and I listened to Harry Carey and Jack Buck and calling Cardinal games, and Dan Kelly, who was the St. Louis Blues announcer. And all three of those men, of course, have passed on, but are all three in the National Halls of Fame in their sports. So that's what I grew up. Those were my influences growing up. And I've had others in my career. I want to say thank you to Mike Reese, who was my boss in Carbondale, Illinois, and continues to be the voice for the SIU Salukis. He instilled in me an incredible work ethic and doing things right, and his writing he passed on to me as well, and I appreciate that. And then I appreciate the folks that I've been able to work with and continue to work with here. Jim Fife had a great influence on me, especially the way he was able to set a scene on a football Saturday. There was none better. And Rod's passion and his prep work allowed him to make those great calls, the 97 home run by David Ross and kick 6 and the miracle at Jordan Hare. The fact that Rod was prepared, I think, in part, along with his incredible talent, allowed him to make those iconic calls. And I pray that I get the opportunity to do that as well.
Rod, and obviously every play-by-play person is a advocate for who he works for. How do you balance as that guy, being an advocate, but at the same time telling the story as it is?
You know who you're working for, okay? You know who the majority of the people that are listening are, and you never forget that. I've probably changed in that regard, Philip, a little bit. I mean, when I moved here, I was 28 years old. And I was probably a little more emotional about a win or a loss for Auburn. Not that I don't have passion for how well Auburn plays now, but I probably communicate it in a better way than I did then. I don't think there's any question you're going to know what team I represent. But listen, I appreciate a great play when it's done by anyone, and you'll know that as well.
You usually have a lot to say about officiating, a lot as well. Do you think you were tough on officials on you, or you would change that?
Rod and Sonny, especially, that was part of their presentation. We'll find out. I look forward to working with Sonny. I look forward to working with someone that has the knowledge and the passion and the humor that Sonny has. Jay, I don't know. When I've been on the officials in the past, I can't say that I'm real proud of that. I'm not saying it wasn't warranted, but probably something I try to control a little bit better now than I once did. Of course, if I'd have been calling the championship or the semifinals of the Final Four this year, I'm not sure I'd have called that any differently, the end of it anyway. I do have a appreciation for the job that these folks do. Believe me, I do. So.
Anything else, Randy?
Thank you. War Eagle.